The Florida State Seminoles, 7-point favorites, traveled to Virginia to take on the Cavaliers, 7 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN, the ACC Conference opener. This game will be at Scott Stadium there in Charlottesville. It's an undefeated top 10 Florida State team sitting there, first true road test of the season, opportunity to kind of validate what was a dominant non-conference run. And for Virginia, sitting there, it's a chance to legitimize this high-powered offensive attack against a legit top 10 team with national championship implications. Like, Florida State's done a great job under new offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn. Super physical, super dominant, been record-breaking with how they're attacking people on the ground. On the other side, Tony Elliott and Virginia, they have a high-profile transfer quarterback that I'll tell you about in a minute, man. This has been a very explosive and efficient passing attacks, numbers through the air that have been off the charts good. Mike Norvell is amazing, right? I think a lot of people have kind of looked at last year and trying to draw conclusions, but over the course of his career, man, he's been awesome. He's going to create a lot of problems offensively. They're going to generate explosive plays. The time that he was the head coach at both Memphis and Florida State, he's averaging over 37 points a game. That's one of the highest among all active head coaches. So he's a master when it comes to creating issues, but he also has great coordinators this year with Gus Malzahn on offense and Tony White on defense. Love so far what we've seen from their defense too. New scheme, a little different from what we've seen in the past, and things I think have been very good for them early on in what has been a bit of a transition shift in their philosophical things that they did in the past on that side of the ball. Tony Elliott, haven't talked a lot about him throughout this offseason, but he was at one point a great offensive coordinator for Clemson, a couple national championships. He's now in year number 4. They're in Charlottesville, and it feels like now is the time to potentially break through. 3-7, 3-9, 5-7. Their 3-1 start kind of shows a pretty decent size step forward. And I think there's a lot to feel good about. They landed 32 new additions. The portal has been helpful. They say this is one of the deepest Virginia rosters in recent history. So we'll see exactly how it goes against top quality Florida State competition. We'll start with the quarterback matchup. Thomas Castellanos, super dynamic. After transferring down from Boston College, he has been everything that Florida State could have wanted to be. He's a perfect fit for what Gus Malzahn wants to be. You know, he's a super effective runner. He also has been really good on the downfield throws. That's been really, really big. And I think if you look at his efficiency numbers, over 71% of his completions, nearly 600 yards through the air, just one pick. And of course, his legs are a huge asset, nearly 140 on the ground. There is something to maybe peek at. He did, have a little bit of a lower body injury or whatnot against Kent State. Like, I'm not super concerned about it. Even Mike Norvell came out and said the injury is very manageable and it's not an issue. Chandler Morris on the other side. You probably heard this name before, but maybe not for Virginia. He arrives from North Texas, super high profile, very accurate passer. In his time at North Texas, he threw for nearly 4,000 yards and 31 touchdowns. So he comes in and has a pretty deep and talented receiver core. He's been pretty electric. He's already thrown for over 1,000 yards. Only one interception this year, too. And in their win against Stanford, he was off the charts, nearly 404 touchdowns. They're showcasing some of that mobility. He also added another score on the ground. There are a couple injuries to keep an eye on. I already told you about Castellanos. Castellanos says he's at 100%. I'll take his word for it. That's for sure. Squirrel White was in a brace after the East Texas A&M game, was not announced as a starter against Kent State. I think he's going to be just fine. So in the event in which he can't go, that's something worth watching. And then Roydell Williams, veteran running back, it sounds like he's probably going to be out for a little while. That's something significant as well, but they do have some depth at the running back spot. As far as Virginia, they returned 3 guys last week from injury. Seems like everything's going to be just fine with Cam Robinson coming back, Antonio Clary coming back, and Mekhi Buchanan all making their debuts last week against Stanford. So that's big, especially with Robinson. It's one of the best young linebackers in the ACC. There are a couple long-term injuries for this team, but at the end of the day, we'll see whether or not it makes a huge difference in this game. Question number 1, and what might determine the outcome. Number 1, can UVA's wide receivers create problems against Florida State's rebuilt secondary. Now, this might be one of the biggest advantages that Virginia might have is the perimeter matchup. They have very deep and talented receiver corps, a lot of veteran proven transfers. You got Edrin from Purdue, you got Cam Ross from James Madison, you got the super explosive Trell Harris. And Harris, by the way, he enters this contest with a lot of momentum. It was a career-defining performance last week against Stanford, had 3 touchdown passes. And this is a veteran unit that will be going against what some people consider to be Florida State's biggest question mark. They're a little thin on experience. There was only one starter from last year's team that's back. They lost some quality pieces. And their new scheme, their 3-3-5 scheme, it's pretty aggressive. It's a team that kind of wants to impose their will with pressure and things like that. And if you do bring some pressure, it does leave defensive backs isolated in one-on-one coverage. Look, I got a ton of respect for Tony White. He knows, do you want to protect the relatively inexperienced secondary, or do you want to heat up the opposing quarterbacks? But so far, Florida State giving up less than 170 yards through the air. This year, the numbers have been pretty good. They're 28th. I will admit, though, I do think their defense can improve a bit from a tackling standpoint. I don't think it's been great up to this point based on my expectations of this group across the board. Question 2, can Florida State's run game wear down UVA's front seven? Florida State's rushing offense is statistically off the charts. 363 yards a game on the ground. That's the second best in the FBS. 498 yards on the ground against Kent State. I don't care who you're playing against. That's big time. And I know if you look at the game, for example, against Bama, everyone knows Bama's got a pretty formidable defensive front, right? Well, they went for 230 on the ground in that game in the season opener. So they're good up front along the offensive line. They have a deep stable of running backs. Mekhi Danzy and the powerful Gavin Sawchuk, really solid offensive line. This ground game, though, the constant threat of the quarterback with Tommy Castellanos is always something you got to be mindful of. He can fundamentally alter how you line up defensively because his legs are always a threat. And this is a Virginia run defense that hasn't really been tested. Right now, they're 31st in the country, allowing just over 100 yards per game and just over 3.3 per carry. But the best team they've played so far this year, that was NC State. NC State went 35 for 216 on the ground at a 6.2 clip. So Florida State, we know they've shown the ability to control the line of scrimmage, kind of dictate the terms of the game based on how they can impose their will. So it's going to be huge for UVA's DC, John Rudzinski. What does he decide to do? Do you commit more defenders to the box to stop the run? Well, UVA hasn't been great tackling either, because if you decide to load the box, and guess what? Now Deuce Robinson and some talented wide receivers, they have one-on-one advantages on the outside. So it's going to be very, very important for Virginia to be good on first down, second down, because right now, Virginia's strength is in their third down defense. If Florida State run game gets going, then here comes play action. Can UVA stop both? Now, a remarkable stat here, nearly 79% of Florida State's pass yardage comes off play action. That's number 1 in the FBS. Deuce Robinson, who we talked about, averaged 25 yards a catch. You got backs that are now contributing too with some of their screen game. Danzy can go for 31 and a half. Jalen Lucas averages 24 yards a catch. Like, these are big play threats. And once the play action gets going, then you're in a real problem on the defensive side. Can Virginia's offensive line, which has performed pretty well, but is missing a couple players, can they protect Chandler Morris against Florida State's aggressive and exotic blitz packages? Now, Virginia averages 313 yards a game through the air. They score more than 45 points a game. Their national rankings, though, kind of look at where they're at. I mean, they are outstanding offensively. 16th in total offense. I mean, this group across the board is very, very good, but they probably haven't seen a pass rush or a defensive front that's as dynamic as the Florida State Seminoles were put on the field. And then can UVA play keep away? Right now, they're 7th in the FBS in time of possession. They're holding it for nearly 35 minutes in the game. Well, how do you do that? You convert on third downs. They're 11th in third down conversion percentage. They're converting nearly 58% of their third downs. So if they can convincingly kind of move the chains methodically with their offense by converting on the money down, that could be huge in keeping that potent Florida State offense to the side. I'm taking Florida State, but don't be surprised if this is a shootout. I think Virginia can score. I just don't think they'll be able to score enough against a Florida State team that feels like they're on a mission.